Good morning, all of you. So, as we know, in last class, I taught you what is heredity and as well as what is variations and what is the importance of this accumulation of variations during reproduction. So, that is what actually we are studying now. So, we'll continue from there. So, as we know, heredity means getting the characters or traits from parents to the offsprings is only called as heredity. Now, if you'll observe the individuals, definitely will find the difference in the characters among the individuals or traits. So that is what we used to call as variations. So now the most best example for variations which we used to observe in human beings is earlobes. So if you observe the earlobes, most of the commonly most of the humans they will be having a free earlobes or attached earlobes. Anybody? Yes, please.
Free earlobe.
Yeah, free earlobes, and some humans we used to find attached earlobes. So these are the basic variation which we used to observe in most of the humans, either attached earlobes or we will say free earlobes. So now if you have noticed very carefully, the variations produced during sexual reproduction is very large compared to the asexual reproduction. That is what we used to study from how the organism reproduce. From that chapter, we are studying the same thing. So, due to the because of sexual reproduction, the variations occurring in the offsprings is more than asexual reproductive method. So, as we know, this variations is very necessary for organic evolution and they will be maximized by the process of sexual reproduction. So, that is only we can take this accumulation of variations. It has to be takes place without like we can take if there is no kind of variations are taking place from one generation to the next generation, it will leads to even variations, drastic variations will take place. It will leads to vanishing the organism or species from this earth, or else no accumulation of variations. It will also leads to organisms cannot survive for the changes takes place in the environment, and that is why from one generation to the next generation, from parents to the offsprings to the next offsprings or generation, variations has to be accumulated for the surviving of the organism. So that is why we are having a great advantage of variations to a species, because of accumulation of variation, it will increases the chances for survival of the organism. Do you understand? Survival of the organism for the what purposes? When changing environment. So drastic change in environments, so like temperature, pressure, climatic conditions, whatever it is. So as we are able to survive today for this temperature, for this atmospheric conditions and all, because from our grandparents to us now, the variations are keep on depositing. So that is the reason now today we are even surviving. The temperature is increasing. even though the viruses are attacking, still we are improving their immunity and all, only because of accumulation of variations. So, if these variations are not happened in an organism, it is difficult to survive the organism in the changed environment. So, it will ensure its survival even when the temperature in its environment or any other factor, environmental factor is increases or decreases. Definitely, it will help to survive the organism. So that is why the best example we have taken bacteria. So if you have taken the bacteria, as we know, they will reproduce by asexual reproduction, so that variations are less or more. Anybody? Variations are very, very less. So, but still you can see the bacteria actually they cannot survive for high temperatures. But because of variations happening continuously in their generations, as I taught you in the last class, if you want to see the variation, it is not possible to happen by one generation. So it will be continuously from one generations to next generations to next generation, like that. Definitely that variation is keep on depositing, and suddenly at certain generation that will be appears to be in all the generations, so entire species. So that is what we used to call as variation. So if you take this bacteria which did not have this variation, it cannot be resist change in temperature. That is what with withstand the heat, and it not survive under the circumstances, so it will leads to the death. So the bacteria which even today is what we are seeing, they are able to survive for heat resistance because of accumulation of variations from their one generations to next generation. So that is why it is always a great advantage of variations to a species, and the accumulation of variations will be continued from one generation to next generation. So that will only will help for evolution. So if there is no accumulation of variations, then organism cannot be evolved from certain level to the another level. So that is what it will happen. Now, to prove this one, we need to even a scientist name called as Mendel's. He has been he explained the same transformation, the same accumulation of variations in the case of plants also. So he has been taken a certain plants, and he has been observed a certain kind of characteristics in plants, and he has done a certain rules also. He has been set certain rules to observe this characteristics in the plants and all. So that is what we are going to study in the next. So a scientist name called as Georg Mendel. He is the first scientist who makes a systematic study of heredity. How this heredity is taking place, he has been explained with the help of plants, and that is why he is known as. So what's his name? Gregor Mendel. You can just remember Mendel, and he is the father of genetics, because he is the first one who has been explained a concept called as phenomena, systematic study of heredity. That is why he is called as father of genetics. Now, he has been done his experiments, and as well as he has been given the rules by conducting the experiments on pea plants. You might be knows, is it yes, guys? So he has been done the experiments on his pea plants to explain the systematic study of heredity. Now, before going to discuss that all, so let us discuss some of the new terms which we used to get in this chapter continuously, and what is the meaning of that. Okay, now you have to remember always if you will take here, whatever the characters or traits which are coming from the parents to the offsprings, that is only ways to call. You can see the characteristics, the transmission of characteristics or traits from parents to the offsprings. So offsprings also we can call as, all of you remember, offsprings also we can say progeny. So that process is only what we used to call, guys. We used to call as, please respond. We used to say heredity. So transforming the characteristics from the parents to the offsprings. Offsprings also called as progeny is known as heredity. So in this, the first term which you have to remember is a chromosome, which is not new to yours, but we have to know. And we need to know the gene, we need to know dominant gene, next one is a recessive gene, and the next one is genotype, next one is phenotype, next one is F1 generation, and same way F2 generation. So these are the new words which we used to get in this chapter. Entire concept of heredity will be depends on these words only. So chromosomes, gene, dominant gene, recessive gene, genotype, phenotype, F1 generation, and F2 generation. So now let us describe one by one. So now if you notice it very carefully, first of all, chromosome is the common one which we are studying from class 6th. So you all knows that we are having two kinds of cells. I think in class 6th we'll start. One is animal cell, and what is another one?
And cell.
One is plant cell. So if you have taken animal cell and plant cell, you are describing the differences between the animal cell and as well as plant cell from very lower classes. Now here, inside the animal cell or plant cell, as we know, every cell will be having a center, something called as, anybody can tell what is that called as?
Nucleus.
Nucleus. So this nucleus is filled with the thread-like structures. The thread-like structures only, what is to call? Everyone is called as chromosome. Yes or no? So that is what we are studying. So a chromosome is the thread-like structure in the nucleus of a cell formed of DNA which will carries the genes. That is what it is called as chromosome. So if I have taken this chromosome, which is a thread-like structure which is having a DNA. So DNA means, I think you all people know. What is DNA? Anybody?
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
Deoxyribonucleic acid. So which carries the gene. So that is what we used to call as chromosome. So chromosome is a thread-like structure in the nucleus of a cell. So both plant cell and as well as animal cell, they contains these chromosomes in their nucleus. So now if you take here, different organisms having the different number of chromosomes in their nuclei. So it's not that all the organisms are having the same number of chromosomes. If you have taken a different organisms is having different number of chromosomes. So for example, if you take human cell is the animal, as we are considered as an animal. So if you take the human cell, the normal cell of human body, they contains 23 pairs of chromosomes. Okay, so in that 22 pairs of chromosomes match in male and female. So both if you take male cell and as well as a female cell, out of 23, 22 chromosomes exactly will be same like male and as well as female. But the only one which is not matched, that is what, a 23rd pair, that is only a different in male and as well as female. So that is because of a sex determination. That is what we will say X and Y, which we will study in this chapter. That is what sex determination. So X and Y are the sex chromosomes, which is in a male. Okay, but if we take the female, we will be having both X and X only. It has two X chromosomes in female. So that is the only difference in all the 23 pairs of chromosomes. If you take the male and female, basically a general cell having the 23 set of chromosomes. In that 22 pair, it will be same, and only last pair for male, it will be XY pair, and the female, it will be 2X pair. That is what XX pair. That is what sex cells we used to see. So like that, different organisms is having different number of chromosomes. No organisms is having same number of chromosomes. Means if you take all the humans is having 23 pairs of chromosome. If you take male cell, 23 chromosomes, female cell also 23 chromosomes will be having. Like that, if you take plant cells, different. If you take another animal, another cell. Like that, different cells is having different number of chromosomes in their nucleus. Now, as I told you, this chromosomes actually they are present in the nucleus of a cell, formed of DNA, and they will carry something. What they will carry, guys? They are carrying the genes. Okay. Now let us discuss what is this gene. So the gene means it is the one of the unit of DNA on a chromosome, which governs the synthesis of one protein that controls a specific character or trait of an organism. For example, I am writing with the left hand. My hair is black color. I am very tall. I am very short. And my skin tone is white, or I am brown, or like black. That is what a particular character it is. So that character is the one which has been actually indicating a gene, one gene, which is one protein which is present in the DNA of our chromosomes. That is a particular protein which will controls a specific character of an organism is only called as gene. Do you understand, everybody? So there are thousands of genes on a chromosome. So each character, one gene is present. Each character, one gene. If you are seeing a different characters in our body, so indicating that different number of genes are there who is controlling that particular trait or a character. So that is what we used to call as gene. So gene are the units of heredity, because which this gene only will transfer the characters or traits from parents to the offsprings. So that is why they are called as units of heredity. So now this genes is number varies from organism to organism. In humans it is different. In animals it is different. In plants, different plants, it is always different. So every gene is indicating one characteristics. it will be always like controls a specific character in an organism. So like the thousands of genes are present in every kind of organism. Now if you have take always this gene, whatever the gene if you have taken, they will work in always pairs only. So individual gene cannot work, always they will work together in the form of pairs. So let us explain that and all. So before that, please write the definition of gene is the most important one. So many times they'll ask you for one more question. Gene, write it. A gene is a unit of DNA. A gene is the unit of DNA on a chromosome which governs the synthesis of one protein that controls on a specific character. Specific trait you can write, that is better. Trait of an organism. So that is only called as gene. So this gene is always what, guys? They'll work together or they'll work as a pair or individual. Always they will work at pairs only. So that is why you can take, they are called as units of heredity. Always take care of all the characteristics of an organism from parents to the offspring. They are only the responsible, whatever the characteristics we are getting from our parents to us or from us to our next generation. So that is why you can take always the genes are we will represented by letters only. So to identify, for example, color, height, eating habits, color of the eyes, color of the skin, everything. So each gene will be having a separate representation. So this always will represent this gene, which is specifying the particular character, will represent Y only alphabets. Okay, so alphabets is indicating that a particular alphabet, if I write capital T, if I write capital B, if I write small b, if I write small t, like this, each one is indicating one gene and it is indicating one of the characteristics of an organism. So that is why always will represent with the alphabet letters. If we take the genes is the controlling the same characteristics which are given the same letters. For example, height. Suppose I am very, very tall, my tallness. So tall is represented with a capital T, indicating that it is a characteristic gene which is controlling the tallness. Suppose if I represent with a small t, it is having some other name. If it is represented with a S, some other. If it is represented with a B, some other. Like that. This alphabet is indicating that the gene is controlling that particular characteristic in an organism. So the basic thing if you'll observe in the plants and humans and all, the main thing as I told you, tallness. If you have taken the tallness is represented by the letter which is called as, what is that letter called as? Everybody? Capital T. So, same way, those who are very short or plants are not growing properly, we used to call them as dwarfness. So, dwarfness is the one, a short plants are short people, we can say dwarf plants. So dwarf people, which is always represented by small t. You can see tallness is represented by capital T and dwarfness is represented by small t. So that is why these two, capital T and small t, they will forms of the same gene. As I told you, they will work pair or individual. Always they will work as a pair only. So that is why they will form a same gene which controls the length of an organism. So either it may be a tallness or maybe a dwarfness, both we used to call it as length of an organism, says that we can take even the animals or the kind of plants and all. So the how much height the plant is growing or the short or tall, whatever it is, that will represent with the capital T and the small t. It is indicating either the plant is a tall or short or dwarf, we can say. So that is why the genes, basically we will say they are the units of heredity. So that is what is gene and where it is present and all. Now if you take the Mendel's time, who has been conducted his experiments on pea plants. So that is what you might be already studied. So by the time of Mendel's, there is no kind of discovery of genes. Genes has not been identified by the time of Mendel's experiments on pea plants to study the inheritance of characteristics. So that is why a Mendel, as a carries of heredity information, he is to say that basically by the time of Mendel's, there is no kind of gene has been identified. Even the word also don't know. So that is why we can say the term we used to use basically factors which were used by Mendel's as carries of heredity information. That is only we used to call it as gene after the discovery of genes. Because Mendel's don't know the name called as gene, he used to say the factors after discovering that gene is existed and it is the responsible for, it is the unit of heredity. So that is what that factors only we are calling as gene. That is what you have to remember. So that is why the genes for controlling the same characteristics of an organism